If we have skills that are in demand, plus marketing materials such as resumes that effectively convey those skills, and we put those marketing materials into the hands of employers, that equals a job. We spend a lot of time in school in acquiring the skills that are in demand, but I don't believe we spend enough time in creating the marketing tools that allow us to express those skills compellingly. This presentation on resumes is intended to walk us through the evolution of historic resume structures into the most cutting-edge resumes and marketing leave-behinds that are in vogue now that can help you get the job that your skills and your passions truly represent as opportunities to potential employers and for yourself. Chronological resume. Classic resume, header, work history, job, education. Works today if your career is an unbroken string of jobs in the same industry with increasing levels of responsibility. You go from bank teller to supervising bank teller to manager of operations in the bank. This resume works great. Today it works great, which is probably about 10% of us. The other 90% of us, our careers aren't this unbroken string of increasingly getting promoted. No, our careers are all over the place. We've consulted for a period of time, we've taught for a period of time, we got some side jobs, we had some breaks. And so around 25 years ago or so, an author by the name of Yana Parker came out with the Damn Good Resume Guide. And she created, or at least promoted her own type of resume, which instead of chronological, she called functional. And it was transformative. It had the same type of header. We had objectives back in the day. We don't now. I'll talk about that. But when we didn't have work history right off the top. We had what were called skills, or back in the day we called them skill sets. And instead of going job, instead we had skill. And we would take all our experience for this skill. It could be from 10 years ago, it could be volunteering, it could be schools, and we would collect them in a group, and we'd organize our resumes this way. All our jobs, all our experiences, using that skill in that category. And these skills would be aligned with the actual job description. So the job description says we're looking for this qualification, and you would work backward from the job description and you would make the case very explicit. This equals me. Your work history was just one line for each job. You would have instructor, Platt College, the city, San Diego, California, and the years. And that was it. This went viral. This, in a matter of 8 or 9 months, Yana Parker came to town, gave a series of workshops, and San Diego was transformed. If you didn't have a resume that was aligned like this, and you brought a resume that was aligned like this, the traditional chronological alignment, you were seen as out of date. Your resume design spoke to your relevancy and the currency of your skills and your currency of understanding what's really going on in your profession. Hit like a hammer. Now, and back in the day, I used to help a lot of ex-offenders find work. And we would encourage them to be honest about their having committed a felony, but we would somewhat, I don't want to say mislead, but we would disguise their time in prison on their resume. And we'd say they worked for the state of California. And then when they were in the interview room, they would say, well, that's when I was in prison, but I had a job. What type of job do you think we had our clients fresh out of prison get?
I can't think
it's hard to fill in
maybe a store, like a...
we could, some did, I mean, some got all kinds of jobs, but we got a lot of
Landscape?
people doing delivery work, delivering auto parts. Now, if you're hiring a delivery driver, what are some of the documents you want to look at?
Driver's license.
Yes.
Insurance.
Yes.
Can
Maybe their driving record?
driving record. Okay. Yeah, driving history. Yeah.
Yeah, so our clients all had really clean driving records. They didn't get a ticket for 5 years.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it makes sense.
Because you can't get a ticket while you're in prison. Anyway,
Yeah.
so it's probably a bad joke. Anyway, it turns out employers were never completely sold on this type of resume. Even though all the best candidates went to this quickly, they were never completely sold on it. So nowadays we have what's called a combination resume or combination targeted resume, where we have, that says combination, so where we have a profile, we don't have objectives, and I'll talk about objectives in a bit. And then we have at the top, particularly for people in your type of fields, we create a section called creative experience. And we include our school projects, and we include our internships and our freelance work and our volunteer work in this category, and then we move to things like work history and skills and things like that. So this is the chronology. Let me talk about profiles and objectives for a bit. I want to talk about this part of the resume, and then I'm going to get into this part here. Your classic humdrum objective. Seeking a challenging position with a growing company in which I can devote my skills toward the accomplishment of organizational goals and the betterment of mankind toward peace on earth and everlasting joy and happiness in heaven. That never meant anything. Even when objectives were hot, that was considered completely ineffective. If the opposite of what you're saying is nonsense, you're saying nothing. Nobody wants a position in an unchallenging environment that doesn't reward effort, in which there's no opportunities for growth, and that's soul sapping and the company's going broke. Nobody wants that. So these bland objectives have never been considered effective. When objectives were considered effective, the type of objective that was recommended was something very specific. Instructor for Platt College. That was a meaningful objective. Now I'm going to throw a word out there as it relates to resumes that you don't often hear. Fashion. Fashion. Now, back in the day when we had objectives, there was a rationale. There was a logic behind why objectives were considered to be effective and, in fact, essential. And you'll still hear people say these things, that if you don't have an objective, you are portraying yourself as being goalless, as not having a destination, not having a clear idea as to what you actually want to achieve in your life and in your career. And you're putting the onus of figuring that out, what you should do with your life, on the employer. You're saying, employer, figure out what I want to do with my life. Nowadays, the thinking is, if you have an objective, you're telling the employer, this is the only type of job I'll take. And you're limiting yourself rather than giving the employer the opportunity to decide how you can best contribute. Both of those rationales, to me, are just that. They're just explanations for what is now considered fashionable. Nowadays, and for at least the last 10 years, profiles have been considered fashionable. Objectives out of date. And don't take my word for that. Go online, do your own research, and you'll find two types of comments. One, you'll hear people say, it's not the 1990s anymore. Stop putting objectives. I just had a student tell me who was about my age. He interviewed for a job. The person was very impressed, looked at his resume, said, we don't use objectives anymore. Haven't for 10 years at least. The other type of comment you'll find are people saying, oh, objectives are great. And then if you look at their background, they've been doing it for 30 years and they haven't adapted and learned and grown as the environment has changed underneath their feet. Now, having said that, human behavior, human beings are highly variable. To say that no employer out there is going to prefer an objective, well, that's obviously absurd. But we don't play to the outlier. We play to what's considered fashionable. The best companies are going to understand profiles have been fashionable for years. I'm going to show you all kinds of resumes with profiles. Because what you have up at the top, if you think about it, this is your most valuable real estate. This is the top of the resume. This is the part of the resume they read first. And if it doesn't work, they may not even go any further. And what are you doing with that top of the resume? If you put a profile in there, you can, in paragraph form nowadays, share specifically in a targeted way how your qualifications exactly fit the descriptions of what they're wanting, as opposed to an objective in which you say, this is what I want. Just think about your own self when it comes to marketing. When people say what they want, how compelling is that's not compelling. My objective is to get your $500. As opposed to, this is what I offer. I offer this dynamic, amazing technology that has all these features that are exactly what you're wanting in your life. It just makes sense that profiles then would be more effective than objectives, because that's the sort of marketing messaging we get in every other environment, because it works. Let's take a look at some examples. And I'm going to start with, I hope this doesn't mess up with your lighting, Marcus, because I'm going to be turning things down a bit.
Okay.
I'm going to start with a resume that I think is the bottom rung of professionally acceptable. And having said that, I don't mean that makes it a bad resume. I think it's got some wonderfully positive features to it. But it's where we start. It's the bottom of what I would see as a resume that might actually work, that might actually compel someone to take a look at you and take a look at your resume and say, I want to hire that person. That's the person who I want to meet with. Let me share how I think people experience and interpret resumes. We first experience a resume like this. We don't even read it at first. We just see it as ink on a page. And what needs to be present in the design is a certain density of text. If it's too dense, if we're just seeing all these closely packed together sentences and there's no white space, we just get the sense of, oh my God, this is like chewing beef jerky. I don't have the time to work my way through this. But on the other hand, if it's too devoid of content, we get just the exact opposite reaction. We get a sense of, there's not enough substance here. This person is a lightweight. It's like broth. So the way in which I portray it by analogy is, we want something that's more like stew. We want something that has enough nutrition, but it's really easy to digest. And I can't quantify that, but I can say that I think this fits within that middle zone. You have very small fonts, this resume is about 6 or 7 years old now, and it already has features that aren't quite as trendy, that were trendy at the time. These really teeny tiny fonts with a lot of white space, they're not as trendy. Back in the day, and I'll show you some resumes that have bigger fonts, but this would still work. We see a logical layout. We have a summary of qualifications. Nowadays, we would call that a profile, or we just wouldn't call it anything. Education, creative experience, professional workshops, and then some skills over here. Makes sense. One of the things you're going to be seeing over and over again is this design feature. 2 columns, a narrow column, and a wide column. Sometimes the narrow column is to the left, sometimes it's to the right, sometimes there's a line, but most typically there is a paragraph at the top, wide column, narrow column. We're going to be seeing that over and over again. So it passes the initial test of, okay, it looks okay. Let me actually now then spend a moment reading it. Okay, let me read it. Skilled environment artist with 3 years of focused educational experience in Maya, 3D Studio Max, and ZBrush. Highly proficient at 3D modeling and texturing experience to create large and small scale environments or props. Ability to create the required texture maps in Photoshop to make the work reflect the standards of today's game industry. Able to multitask, I would probably hyphenate that, I'm a hyphen person, between programs efficiently by understanding the correct naming conventions and workflow between the programs to meet the goals promptly. Okay, well that's a summary of what the person can do. Nowadays, summary of qualifications would be seen as out of date. we would probably just either put the word profile in there, or we would just leave it off because we know what that is. It's just a paragraph that summarizes who we are. But it makes sense. I get a sense of who the person is, and they make a contention that they have a skill. They're saying that I'm able to multitask, and then they explain the feature that allows them to do that. How can I do that? Because I understand the correct naming conventions. We're going to be learning in brand positioning statements that formula. We contend that we have a value to offer, and then we describe why they should believe it. These potato chips are extra crispy. Why? Because they're fried in peanut oil. It's that formula. This is the feature, and this is the benefit that supports the feature that makes us believe that it can happen. All right, she's got these brackets around the headings. I think that's a programming, formatting feature convention. That's fine. Education. Let me share a couple things about this. One, I see it both ways. I've done some poking around the internet, and I continue to see it both ways. I'm a fan of having the degree on top and the institution on the bottom. I see it both ways. Now, this was written in the summer of 2010. She wasn't graduating until December 2010, but she already puts her degree on the resume. Why? Because oftentimes your resume is going to be scanned by a computer first. And even if a human being looks at it, we still want them, as they scan it, to get the psychological effect of, I have the degree. Now, you probably don't want to do this your first quarter in school. But if you are within, say, 6-8 months of graduating, you can go ahead, put the degree down, and you can do one of two things. One, you could just put the future date that you're going to graduate. That's a little bit sketchy, or at least not as transparent, better term. I like, you put in parentheses, graduation date, December 2010. So people psychologically get a sense of, okay, they're not far from graduating. I'm looking for a candidate that has a bachelor's degree. Here it is. They'll be graduating soon. And if they're scanning it electronically, the degree will automatically be read and triggered by the scanner. Creative experience. This is the heart of our resume. This is where we need to list the skills that qualify us for the position that we're applying for. This is when she did a project in school. She was the team co-lead and environment artist. Co-lead of an art team of 10 in creating a prototype environment called Atavi'i, based off of fantasy realism style towards Sony Online Entertainment's EverQuest 2. And then she talked about her responsibilities in here. This is the heart of her resume. That's the center of it. And she doesn't talk about her work experience that's not related. She uses that space right in the middle of her resume to talk about the skills that qualify her for the position that she wants, even though it was unpaid. You can similarly put your experiences in school. So just from this class, you could put down, as part of an academic team, as part of an academic marketing team, created a comprehensive marketing plan, which included focus and revision of mission statement, identification of differentiating feature, SWOT analysis, establishment of strategic objectives, customer profile targeting, psychographic and demographic profiling, brand positioning statement, marketing mix, and creation of all related marketing collateral. All those buzzwords now can be right in the heart of your resume. And so if you're applying for a positioning that has a marketing base, you've got all these words that potentially the electronic scanner might trigger, and or a human being is going to look at, and they're not going to say, okay, well, I'm going to make this person my director of marketing. But they'll get the impression that, oh my God, this person might actually function as a member of our team within a marketing environment and understand what we're talking about. And you could do that for any of your classes. You're not going to do it for all of your classes, because then your resume would be 10 pages long, but you would do it to describe the skills that they're asking for and the position that you're applying for. That's how you target these things. She was also a prop artist for this. How does she differentiate herself? We always have to ask ourselves, why you and not the other person? What makes you stand out? Well, Lisa stands out in two ways. One, she went out of her way to attend these workshops. And one of her differentiating, because I asked her, what makes you stand out? She says, I attended all these workshops. I'm willing to get training on my own to acquire additional skills that other people who just learned things in school didn't do. Now these were just one-day workshops, but it doesn't matter. That's her differentiating principle. Now on the bottom, notice she has her work experience down on the bottom. She was a photographer of infants and toddlers. To me, that is one of Dante's levels of hell. I would never take pictures of babies. Oh my God. About 2 minutes of crying babies, and I'd be saying, just kill me now. But the point is, that's what she did. She puts it down on the bottom. Nobody's going to hire her to be a programmer of video games or video game artist because she took pictures of babies. We're tempted to put this work experience in the middle, but that's wasting the prime real estate. That just puts her work experience where it needs to be. Let's take a look at this right column. Let's set of skills. It's really redundant with her summary, but okay, it makes sense to put your skills there. And then what's the second way in which she differentiates herself? What's the second way in which she sets herself apart? Work ethic. Work ethic. Rightly or wrongly, millennials are seen as not necessarily having the greatest work ethic. That it's a generation brought up, and these are just stereotypes. I'm not saying I believe them, but this is the perception in the marketplace in which you are marketing yourself. That millennials are seen as having been raised in environments in which there was a disconnect between effort and reward. Everyone gets a ribbon, everyone gets a trophy. And so we've heard before a sense of entitlement and unwillingness to grasp and embrace the reality that in order for us to succeed, we need to be willing to work hard to make it happen for us. Now, I know that's not the case of a Marine, believe me. Yeah. Yeah, but these are stereotypes. So she addresses these stereotypes proactively by putting in a column called work ethic. For myself, I'm a baby boomer. So what do I have to address? Well, typically I'm seen as having work ethic, but the ability to work with and particularly under the supervision of younger people, I have to be ready to address that. My ability to stay technologically relevant, I have to show that I have my own YouTube channel and I'm proficient in using Twitter. And I've got a robust LinkedIn network. So I have to be able to show I have these things, as well as just a physical and mental vitality that allow me to be seen as not being the stereotype. Work ethic, self-motivated and positive, professional attitude, organized, detail-oriented, team player, friendly, fun, and energetic. That's her work ethic. And I support and encourage people to have, especially millennials, a section in their resume that actually says, this is my work ethic. Let's take a look. Friendly, fun, energetic, self-motivated, positive. Let's take a look at how these personal characteristics play out in her cover letter. Now, what I would recommend, and what you're going to be seeing examples of, is when you have the same format for your cover letter as you do for your resume, and then they have the letterhead effect. I am applying for a prop artist position at your company because of my passion for video game creation. I feel I would be a perfect fit for your company. I love to model, unwrap, and texture game assets for video game environments. Let me share a thought about this word love. You will read in human resource forums that you do not say you love to do your work. I've heard people say you love your mother, you love your dog, you don't love your work. And to that I say bull. If the word love comes to you naturally, use it. And this was reinforced by the Director of Human Resources. On her LinkedIn account, she says she loves what she does. And that was really validating to my belief that if the word love comes naturally, I love teaching, you say that. And the people who don't, if that word comes to you naturally, and someone thinks it's inappropriate, you're not a match for that company's culture anyway. She said she's positive, playful, enthusiastic. When playing video games, I often find myself looking at the props and the environment just as much as I play the game. Although most of the time this does not have the best results for my character. Luckily for them, they have unlimited lives. Isn't that fun? Playful, personality. As you can see from my resume, I have all the skills that's needed to begin my career. She describes her experience. But then she has this beautiful paragraph. Beautiful paragraph. This is the business part of all of your messaging. What makes me stand out? What makes me stand out from others? We have to be able to articulate that. is my positive attitude and outlook on life. And then she goes on to describe it almost poetically. No matter how hard life gets, I never give up on others or myself. And I'm always trying to help others and encourage them to do their best. I pride myself. I love the word pride. People who take pride in themselves, in their names, in their work, they tend to succeed. Pride myself on my commitment to developing healthy relationships with people. I'm definitely a team player, and I especially love working on teams. It's not the world's greatest sentence, but it expresses a sincere sentiment. What doesn't show on my resume is the passion I bring to my work every day and then a call to action. What makes her stand out? Bang, the type of human being she is. When you are in the interview room, the assumption is that on paper you're qualified or else you wouldn't be sitting there. What is the interview for? Two things. One, to see how much you have BS'd on your resume. So they're going to ask you questions like, you say that you know Autodesk Maya. Describe for me 3 situations in which you used Autodesk Maya in a project. But the biggest thing that the interview is for is not just to ensure that you're telling the complete and unexaggerated truth on your resume. No, the main reason you're there is to see if you're the human being that I want to spend more time with than I spend with my wife. Are you the human being that I want to spend time with, that I want to be working with? I can teach a skill. I can't make you a positive, enthusiastic, passionate human being. And so she recognizes that and talks about what makes her stand out, not as a set of skills, but as a human being. It's right on point. Is this perfect? No, it's not perfect. But as I said, to me it's the bottom line level of what I would see as potentially professionally acceptable. Let's take a look at another. We're going to be taking a look at quite a few. I'll bring them down. All right. Again, we begin consuming a resume in the big form picture. This type of heading, very classic, okay? She plays with her initials to make a logo. That's perfectly legitimate. And she doesn't say objective, seeking a position as a graphic designer. No, she claims the term graphic designer. This actually looks quite a bit better as a hard copy. These columns are nice. A lot of profiles have skills underneath. Sometimes they have the word skills. Sometimes they just list them. I think there's a bit of an issue with the sort of a desert of space out here. Maybe move some of these over. Some designers point out that these columns aren't of the same length, so they're a little disturbed by the lack of symmetry, but it makes sense. It's a nice clean look. Profile, skills, education, awards. All right, I'll actually try to read this thing. So let's take a look at what we have here. Again, you've got her name, graphic designer. Not objective, seeking a position as a graphic designer. And for God's sake, not seeking an entry-level position as a graphic designer. Come on, why would you ever put entry-level on your resume? What you're saying is, I don't have the experience to really do this, but I'm hoping that somebody will take me on board if I work cheap enough. It's not good. Professional award-winning graphic designer with an exceptional balance of creative innovation, solid and proven business skills, and a strong work ethic. There's that word work ethic again. Talented, positive, and progressive. 3 words to define the positive attitude of this fine student, Colleen McLemore, and that's an instructor. These are becoming more and more common. Are these testimonials? Where else do we look for testimonials in life? Well, everywhere. We don't buy a donut nowadays without looking at Yelp. And so the idea of having a third-party testimonial plunked into a resume becoming more and more commonplace. And they are effective. Now, I'm going to tell you, these aren't necessarily hard to get. If an instructor likes you, they will very likely say something nice about you. Now, they may not say you're more talented than Michelangelo. You may need to negotiate the actual words. But you can get these, and they're helpful to have. You've got her skill sets here. Nothing very easy to get. Not a huge fan of the font. think a sans serif font would be better. Has her education. Dean's on a roll, Dean's on a roll. She has this degree here. Now there are some people, again, I just want to let you know, different controversies, different points of view. There are some people who've said, I wouldn't hire a person with a 4-point.
They wouldn't do what now?
They wouldn't hire a person with a 4.0 average, straight A's, because they say that person's too fixated on grades and they don't do things that take risks and they haven't experienced failure. And to those type of comments, I just say, I think that's bunk. Whenever you hire somebody, you always hire them with the hope and expectation that they can be a superior performer. And what makes you think that? Superior performance in the past. Header. So again, the two of them together give this marvelous letterhead effect. Oh, that's wonky. There we go. So she has that, and then there's her resume. So her resume, cover letter have the same header. So it makes a nice clean look. All right, I'm going to now shift to showing you some physical resumes. And I'm going to show you what I've come to believe is the standard nowadays. And that is to have a professional resume paired with a marketing leave behind. And I'll show you an example. Still no email from John. Interesting. All right. Now, these may take a moment for me to get organized in a way that I think helps them make sense. Years ago, that's I'm old. They would tell you get a nice 20-pound paper, nice thick paper. 10 years ago, they would say, come on, or no, maybe 15 years ago, they would say, look, an employer is just going to run this to the copy machine anyway. What are you doing wasting time with thick paper? Just use regular print paper. Nowadays, we're back to this cardstock. Okay, this is a really ineffective resume, but the paper is about the only good thing about it. Okay, we have here, this is what I would consider to be minimal standard. This person, for whatever reason, wanted to be a dog trainer, kind of a strange choice, but little logo, contact information, summary, skills, elaborations as to when they demonstrated those skills. That would be the analogous to a functional style resume, related experience, education, professional associations, awards, and competitions. That would be seen as what I would say the bottom rung of what might actually work if it were on decent paper. But let's move to some others that I think are more impressive. And you're going to start seeing some themes over and over again. You got the narrow column, wide column, little logo, typically with the person's initials, 2 colors. Nowadays, we don't put our street address. We just put the phone number. Should always have a web page and an email, profile, skills. Nice clean look. Okay, nice clean look. That would be something that I would see as a successful resume. And notice how this person has done things that makes them stand out. So they were a peer mentor at school. They went out of their way to help their fellow student as part of their experience in school. So I'm just going to show you a bunch along the same theme, the same lines. So you have, again, you've got profile, what they call professional profile, a logo that they created with their own initials, M and R, a little border there, portfolio, their LinkedIn, their skills, education, awards and affiliations, beautiful, and the clubs and things they've done that make them stand out. Work history over there. Nice, clean layout. I think that one works as well. I think that's a nice resume. Let's look at a couple more in the same vein. All right, there's a bunch that I think are solid, very clean. Okay, probably starting to see the pattern here. Narrow column, wide column, logo playing off the initials, awards right there, skill sets, education, profile right there, their internship and creative experience. This is what they've done. Okay, very, very clean, and that was a fine student as well, so not a surprise. A little variation on it. Her name was Delia, so she came up with this logo, Sweet D. Don't know if I'm completely sold on it, but the resume is really, really clean. Okay, got a summary. We wouldn't use the word summary anymore. It's out of date. Creative experience. See that? That's the ticket. That's what we want, is a description of creative experience right in the heart of the resume. Profile skills, creative experience, work experience, education. Solid. And then you see the letterhead look. See how the letterhead, the cover letter and the resume, the same heading. Looks really neat, clean. That's a nice look. A nice paper. That's a good resume. Continuing along that line, you're starting to see some themes at this point, I'm sure. Akash Patel has the watermark on his resume. I think that's kind of cool. Again, you got the same letterhead, and you've got this resume here. I think it's a nice, clean look. Doesn't that look nice?
That one looks really good.
Got the left columns there, some logos, dates all nicely lined up. All the person's a design work experience. I mean, that's a lot of looks like real world work. Awards, this resume just screams high achiever without going overboard. Still nice and clean, and it's effective. So that's a really nice one. Let's see. Here's one, these are going to start getting a little redundant, and I'm going to move on to some others, okay? All right, so you got these images that convey that graphically convey the skills. I still think it's clean. You've got the contact information, freelance design, creative experience, all this stuff, education, nice and clean. You got a little logo playing with your initials. These are all, I hate to be formulaic about things, but that's the same sort of design. Here's one, a little different, and then we're going to show how these resumes are about 5 or 6 years old. So I'm going to even show how I think things have evolved just a bit. Maybe just one more in that same vein, just to show, they're all the kind of, you got your initial, you got your logo, your profile, your in paragraph form. Again, that section called creative experience. And then you got your work experience. I think the margins look to me to be an issue on the bottom, frankly. And it doesn't really scan all that well. I think some bold would probably help. Mm-hmm. But it's still the same design feature. I think you do have some margin issues there. If it were me, I would give that feedback. Let's take a look at some Platt College students have done that I really, really like. And I'm going to introduce another concept as well. Okay. Student's last name is Flores, so what does she do? She makes this logo with the flower in it. Doesn't that look nice?
Yeah, it looks real good.
Isn't that cool? She doesn't say seeking a position in graphic design. No, she is a graphic designer. And she has a profile. But I'm going to introduce something now that you're going to start seeing a few examples of. This isn't all she has, because she has a leave behind it. I'm going to show you a bunch of these. She has a candy jar with her business card on, her logo. She didn't really get a chance to quite finish that. And her resume on the jar. When she shows up for the interview, she brings this. And she leaves that behind. Now, if she just brought that and she said, okay, there's my resume, people are going to look at her and say, well, you're kind of crazy, aren't you? But in conjunction with and paired with a nice, clean, professional resume, the two in tandem hit like a hammer. It's that pairing of, and I'm going to show you all kinds of examples, of a resume that's rock solid, business resume, 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, with something creative you can leave behind that makes you stand out. You just think, she's got her business card here, it's beat up because it bounces around in my trunk.
Right.
But she has her card there. Now you just think, they're not going to throw this out. They're going to leave it on the desk, and their coworker's going to come in. They're going to say, "Oh, you got candies," and they go, "Oh, look at that. Who gave you that? Oh, this really bright student left that behind. Did you hire her?" That's going to be the first question.
Right.
Did you hire her? Because that's pretty cool what you did there. That's exactly.
That's nice.
It's exactly what people are going to ask. I'm going to show you all kinds of examples of things like that. I've come to believe that when I teach resume classes, I have students create one of each of these. And I'm not candy jars. I'm going to show you all kinds of.
I've never seen nothing like that before. That's
I'm going
nice.
to show you a bunch. I'm going to show you a bunch of things that are really, really cool. Okay, I told you how here's another one. All right, you got narrow column, wide column, a little bigger font, little business card stuck in there. All right, just another, just another example of the same. But I'm going to, in fact, these are getting a lot of place. I'm going to start organizing these. All right, I mentioned how bigger fonts are coming into fashion, right? So we get this nice big font. You got a profile, freelance experience, work experience, their skills, their education. This is Platt College here, a little logo. I think that's nice. I would say this is probably a more trendy look. This one and Flores, I think those are really trendy looks. I think those look good. But let me share with you what I've come to see as here's another little one. I don't know if I showed you that one or not. Just a little slightly different design. It's more symmetric. I think it works too.
I heard that name before. I like that one.
Oh, have you? Yeah, that's nice. It's all symmetric. That's a nice one too. These are what I've come to believe are the absolute standard. You have a resume here, and again, you've got a testimonial from an instructor at the top. Summary skills, it looks like you got the logo, but what really sets this one apart, are you videoing or are you taking solid pictures? Because I want to know if I should hold it for a picture.
Video.
Okay. So
you want me to take?
But let me show you what's the real kill shot, man. This thing here. You got a QR code. QR codes are finally being used. I'm seeing QR codes being used by box offices for theaters and such, and races. They're actually using QR codes, not so much as a marketing tool, but QR codes are actually coming back. So you can see this mini little resume, and it folds up, same logo, business card on the back, and if you pull the business card off, which I don't want to do because the sticky stuff is wearing out, the business card's printed back there. And someone brought it to my attention, she made these herself. I never thought you could, but you think about it, printing them out isn't hard. It's just a matter of learning the folds. You just learn how to fold it that way, and then you design it that way, and then you just glue it on in 5 places. And then it folds right up.
Wow, that's nice.
Is that nice?
Yeah.
You go to a meeting of AIGA, and you pass these out. You go to an interview, you pass these out. Man, people are going, "Oh, I want you to make something like that for me." If you show up and say, "That's my resume," people are going to say, "You're a little weird." But you put the two together, oh my God, you're just killing it.
That's nice.
You're just killing it. Yeah. Here's another student, very, very similar. Her name is Cream. I think she said her parents were hippies. But she embraces it, and she has trademarked, copyrighted Cream. Let's take a look at what she actually writes here. Take 3 years of academic experience, sprinkles of commissioned real-world work, add in 2 dashes of copywriting internships, and you get something that is much needed in this bitter world. I'm Cream, and let me provide you with creative copywriting solutions for your advertising and marketing needs. Now you'll notice she's got this teeny little font here, but you know what she gives away with this? This. A magnifying glass. And what's her tagline? Delightful writing down to the fine print.
Wow.
And so you can actually use that to read that teeny tiny stuff. And I used to carry this around in my wallet before I finally went ahead and got myself reading glasses, and then now I got real glasses. But I used to carry this in my wallet so I could read the menu in a restaurant.
Wow, that's nice.
Isn't that a cool combination?
Yeah,
now again,
cool.
You're not going to show up and say, "Hey, here's my resume," right? You're not.
Right.
But then tandem, holy cow, it's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Okay, let me show something that I don't think works at all before I even go further. I'll show you another couple cool ones. This has virtually every feature that I don't like. One, it has these self-ratings. So in Microsoft Word, you're, I don't know, maybe 90%, and this one you're 60%. And you'll see all kinds of different symbols used. They just don't work. All this stuff doesn't work either. These bubbles here, inevitably, whenever you have these bubbles, you always seem to include content that's not relevant. I don't care if you like music or books. That doesn't mean anything to me. The fact you run, it's also poorly designed. It has this black font behind this dark blue background. You can't even read it. And then these timelines. I don't like these timelines either. You always think that these timelines are going to help. This has every trendy thing that I don't like. And I don't think I'm the only one. I just don't think they're seen as effective nowadays, or ever really.
Yeah.
Here's a fun resume. Okay, again, you've got the same design, so it has the same look, right? And her name is Paige, and Paige Kerner, and so she plays off PNK, her initials, and uses pink as her color. Her name's Paige. What does she say? Not your average page in the book. Armed with a pen, camera, and design skills to take on the world. 3 years of educational experience in copywriting, worked with 2 nonprofit clients, and interned for a well-respected real estate agency. That's her summary. And so it's really, really clean. And it has a nice look to it. They're informal, and they're effective. Let me show a couple more. I'm going to get some really mind-boggling things. Okay, here's another one. Okay, fine student here at the Art Institute. It's the same resume, but someone told her, who doesn't work here anymore, that she needed an objective. So she tossed an objective on this one. And then what's her leave behind? She has this little fold-out thing. Okay, so it's a little fold-out thing, and so it's like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
See, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
And then it just folds up. Boom. It's got a little thing on the back. And it's got her logo on the front. Those are nice. Those are nice. So let's get into some more impressive things. This here I like to share because it's at least 10 years old. All nice and bound. Has the person's resume inside. It's got, I think the resume's on the back. Resume's on the back. I don't know if I'd put the resume on the back, but it's okay. And then it's a mini portfolio.
Wow, that's nice.
So you go to the interview, and you leave this. Okay, imagine you leave this, and the other person, they leave this. I mean, come on, who are you going to hire?
The one on, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
The left.
it's rhetorical. You know you're going
Mini
to.
portfolio. I like that.
Isn't that nice? A little mini portfolio, and like I say, it's 10 years old, so it's not new. You just go to Kinko's or whatever it's called nowadays, and you just get somebody to print it out for you. Here's some really cool things I got. Remember when I said that we can get testimonials from instructors? Well, look at the one that Alex got. Alex Esparza approached every project with unparalleled work ethic and strived to learn as much as he could about not only good design, but how to use the new software he was learning as efficiently as possible. His desire to improve and attention to detail make me confident he can handle any project put before him. If you don't have a position for him, I suggest you find one to keep him around. He would be a benefit to any company. I'm reading this upside down, so I'm a little off.
Yeah.
Profile, technical skills, creative experience, education, work experience. Now, Richard Morris, I think a magnificent instructor here, great guy.
Yeah.
He wrote this student this. In the same resume class, I had another student ask Richard for a testimonial. And the testimonial that student got was something like, he's all right. Well,
Yeah.
I even pointed out to him, I said, look at the one Richard got compared to the one you got. Can you think of why his was better? I think it's because he works harder. Don't you? This is what Alex created.
This is Leave Behind?
Yeah, see?
Wow.
So you've got this cool thing. I think there's a little problem with the design because the cards fall out too easily. You should probably have a top to it or something, but it's got the logo there. You open it up. Alex Esparza, graphic designer. Got his education. He's got that testimonial by Richard. He's got his artwork on the back. his skills, profile, artwork on the back. So he's got all this wonderful examples of his art, and he's got that fun stuff inside. Now again, you leave that behind, and people are going to say, man, you're pretty, you got something going on there. It's cool stuff.
Yeah, that is cool.
Let's take a look at some other things here. I haven't been seeing too much of this lately, though there was a time it was getting popular, and I actually liked it myself. These square ones that come in these containers. This student actually used this logo really effectively with this jagged word balloon. He sent me an email on one Thanksgiving, I'll never forget. It had this lion with a pilgrim's hat next to a turkey that was just bone, all these feathers in the air, and the thing just said Happy Thanksgiving. And I just laughed like crazy. So it says, I'm ready to work. And then he's got this resume that's a square, and then his resume itself, or his cover letter that's a square, and then his resume is off on an angle. It's kind of fun. So
Yeah, I like it.
that's his. A little different. That's his thank you card he gave me. That's kind of fun. Another one like that. This student was really an amazing human being. He's got the square thing. I lost his business card. It used to be stuck in there. Made the thing look better. On the back, okay, his resume is a little crowded and busy, but that's an image of him, and with his tattoos. He had these amazing tattoos on his forearms. One said, "Every sinner has a future. Every saint had a past." And those were the tattoos on his forearm. You could take your picture shaking its hand, and you could email it to yourself. Well, what's he collecting? He's collecting email addresses.
Oh, okay.
It's a wonderful little marketing tool he had going there. I think that's clean. I think it works. I like that, though I haven't been seeing as many of them. Here's one that's square. I don't think works at all. I think it just looks like something somebody doodled in there in the class, and I've never read it. It just gives me vertigo to look at it. It's just really, really hard to read. I don't think that works at all. Here's a fun one. Students got, again, your classic resume, narrow column, wide column. I don't think it's really, all that graphically designed well, but she is an interior designer, not a graphic designer. But she creates this coloring book with her own artwork.
Wow, I like that.
That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into some fun things. Student made a color wheel. It fell apart, so I have this paper clip in the spoke. But it was cool. It had job descriptions on the back, on one side, and then this side examples of his artwork. It's a color wheel. And it was really cool before it fell apart. Examples of his work. But the spoke fell out right away. I didn't have the heart to ask for another one. I thought that was really creative. Here's one I like. We've got this web developer, examples of her work, and she has this great tagline. If I build it, they will come. And she has this great domain name, www.ifibuildit.com. I have no idea what that domain name is worth, but I suspect she could sell that for a good amount. And then this is a little origami thing that one of our students here made. On that side, it's got his logo, little ninja star thing. It says, contact me, about me, what I do, who I am. And then when you open it up, cool. You get examples of his work with who I am and all that, what I do, bring the visions and thoughts of my clients from the concept all the way down to the finished piece. Something inside the box, something outside the box. I believe there is no box. And then it folds back up. And what's really cool about this design is you can actually fold it and it fits back together. And you don't have to be someone who can fold maps back together. And imagine going to AIGA and passing these things out. I mean, they'll be throwing these things all around the room.
I know, right?
But they'll be keeping them. Mm-hmm. And that's an idea you could even steal. And then here's I've got a bunch more, but you get the point. It's like a candy bar, and then you pull the stuff out. So it's got his card and stuff. and that's his logo. I forgot John took that class, and you pull that one out, and that's supposed to be like a candy bar. So you pull it out at the sides.
Oh, okay.
So John did something
Yeah,
pretty
that is
creative. And then he's got his profile message right there, and then he's got a testimonial and his contact information. That's really strong.
Yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm. So that's what John came up with. I forgot he did that. Yeah, I have that right there too. So I keep this stuff. I'm a collector, so that I can use that. Let's see. I got something there. Okay. This here is what I think is certainly the most expensive and amazing one, I think. And this used to be really cool to bounce around my trunk and got all beat up. First off, you've got classic, got this folder, that's the logo. You got this cover letter, resume, really nice paper. You've got this one sheet, little sort of mini portfolio thing. You got a notepad with their logo on it. And if you just had that, man, you'd really be cool. But that's just where it begins. She also has this calendar with her work, one of her designs per month calendar. And this was nice before it got beat up. Don't stop there.
Nice, yeah.
This thing here, flash drive engraved. This thing's at least 5 or 6 years old. That flash drive alone had to cost $25. It's got her portfolio on the flash drive.
Wow, okay.
And, I hope I still have it, a mini disc with their portfolio on it as well. Cables. I mean, I have no idea what this package must have cost. It had to be $40, $50 a pop, I'm guessing, with the printing and the flash drive.
Wow, so the flash drive, she gives that to
Yep.
wow,
That whole
that's nice.
package. And before it got beat up, that was sweet. I mean, that was really, really sweet. So anyway, I think that gets it. I mean, here's just one more of the example of stuff I don't like. The self-rating of skills.
Yeah.
Very trendy. I don't think it works. I just do not like it. I mean, it's a nice clean look, printed all the way to the edge. That's nice, but I just don't think it. I don't like those. Where's the person's name even? Mike Chum or something. It's really hard to read. QR code here. They just, to me, the graphics get in the way of telling the story.
Got it.
And they don't enhance it. The font, it's too small. It's not scannable. I've never read it. I just have a really hard time gleaning the information from it. So that's what I had to say about resumes. That combination of the leave behind and the professional business style resume, creative experience in the middle of your resume, in your summary, using the word educational experience to describe your time in school. That's something you've been doing at the Art Institute for years. So if you took 2 years of web design classes, you have 2 years of academic experience in web design. And that's something you can put in your profile. So that concludes my presentation on resumes without Alex's cards. That's all.